rematching debate on Brexit as the economy appears perhaps unaffected by the decision to leave the European Union. Joining me today for the victorious 52% is Richard Tice, returning. He's co-founder of Leave UK, and for the vanquished 48% first time, but I'm sure we'll see him lots in the future, Matthew Fulton of the European Movement. Welcome to you both. Are you grinning like a Cheshire cat today that it's happy days here again?
It's no surprise to us. It just is another nail in the coffin of Project Fear. This is more Brexit success. We had no doubt that Nissan would continue to invest in Sunderland. Their own workers knew that, which is why they voted to leave when they did. The GDP figures, once again, confounding the economists. Michael Gove was quite right when actually, he said we shouldn't listen too much to experts. So it's no surprise to us. What we need now to do is to focus on leaving and leaving quickly, because that's what the people want. Well, it's all about investment, isn't it? Investment in the future. You've had the government announce this week that they're going to push on with some infrastructure investment. This is all good news for Britain. And, quarter by quarter, GDP is growing. It's growing much more than the pessimists feared. And, it's a huge confidence boost.
As it was predicted to grow before we voted to come out.
Well, that may be the case, but it's much more than people said. All the pessimists, all the fearmongers, actually we're doing well. People are working hard, and people now want to get on with it. And let's focus on the future. People want to know when we're going to leave, what are the opportunities, let's get on. Nonsense that people talk about food prices, led by Nick Clegg, is complete nonsense. When we leave, we'll be able to reduce tariffs on all the foods from outside the European Union. That's a huge opportunity.
But on the basic point of devaluation, that makes your imports more expensive, doesn't it? And that will put prices up.
But hang on.
We saw this in the Marmite Wars.
And so retailers and suppliers will debate who's going to absorb it. They'll absorb some. The consumers might absorb some.
So but let's remember, higher prices.
But let's remember, inflation. The target rate of inflation is 2%. We're way below it. Actually, some inflation is good and necessary for an economy. And to have some wage inflation, which hopefully we're going to see over the next couple of years, is good for workers. We talk about clean and messy. A clean Brexit is where we get on with it, we serve Article 50, and at no longer than 2 years, we leave. And going to WTO rules is nothing to be afraid of.
So let's be clear about this. You would not seek to have preferential access to the single market, and you would not seek to remain in the customs union.
Well, no, it's quite right to try for a deal, but we've seen how incompetent the EU is able to do deals. It's never signed a major trade deal with any global nation. The biggest is South Korea. So, they are incompetent. They're being held to ransom by a small state that most of us hadn't heard of until 2 weeks ago. Look, we can give them up to 2 years. But after that, they need to know we're leaving because the opportunities are with other nations around the world. We're not going to impose tariffs on you. Don't be silly and impose tariffs on us. Given that,
the net effect would be to punish our producers.
Well, if they're so foolish as to then impose tariffs on us, we have the choice as to whether or not to reciprocate.
But you just said you weren't going to impose
and that
tariffs.
that should absolutely be our starting point. Let's be grown up and common sense about it. There's no point making the situation worse than it currently is. They export $100 billion a year more to us, so there's no incentive for them to make it worse than it currently is. They've got the best deal at the moment.